Hello everyone, I'm here today to show you how to make a question maze game in Scratch. I'm just going to start by showing you a little bit of a preview. If I press the green flag, I can use the arrow keys to move my character around. As it touches the ball, it prompts a question. I've got mine asking math questions, so when I press the answer in, I get a correct answer and the sound plays and I have a point awarded to me. I also have the questions being asked at random, so the numbers will change each time. And if I get it wrong, there's a different sound, a different error message, and it also takes a point away. Obviously, if I was making this game properly, I would have more questions and I might have a bit more decorative sprites or a theme or something. But this is just to try and get us started. So I'm going to head over to a blank Scratch presentation. I'm going to call this Scratch Maze Game. Okay, so to start with, I'm going to start by adding in the maze background. Now, there's a website called Invent with Scratch that I like to use because these mazes have a transparent background, which is important to make the cat be able to walk through it without touching the walls. So there are different designs there. I'm just going to download the first one. And I'm going to head over and I'm going to add in my maze as a sprite, okay? And that way I'm able to interact with it and I'm going to be able to use code that says if I touch the maze. So I'm going to head over, I'm going to add in the maze. Now I can click on the wall to move it into a better position. If I try and touch the gap, obviously it's not going to work because it has transparent walls. And I can see there that it's a little bit too large. So I'm going to make the size a bit smaller. I'm going to try 80. Oh, that's a little bit small. Let's try 90. Okay, so I'm going to try and get my cat out now, and he's going to start up the top because obviously he can enter through the maze and then pick which path he wants to take. And I need to make my cat a little bit smaller as well. So I'm going to try and make him 15. Okay, let's try and see if we can fix the size. So in maze, let's make that 95. And I'll keep the cat at 15 for now, but when I start moving him through the maze, I'll see if I can make him bigger, maybe 17, 18, or even 20. The hardest part about making the cat is if I make him too big and he's going around a corner, obviously he can't touch, whether his little ears or his little legs, can't touch any part of the wall or he won't be able to move. So on my cat now, I'm going to start with my code to make it move. So I'm going to head over to events and grab my green flag. Now I want my cat to start in that position every time. So because I have him where I want him, I'll head over to motion and get my go to X and Y. Don't forget the X and Y coordinates will update automatically as soon as I drag it where I want it to. So you can see here they update, but I've already got it where I want him. The next thing I'm going to do is use a if block, if then to talk about what happens when I press the keys. So let's head over to control and get an if then block. And I want the cat to move when I press the left, right, up and down arrows. So let's head to sensing and I'm looking for key pressed. So let's start with left. If I press the left arrow, I want my cat to move to the left. Now, obviously going left and right will be on the X axis. So I'm going to head over to change X by and put that in. Now, keep an eye out. So often kids accidentally put in set X2 and then they have a bit of trouble because the cat actually doesn't move. So the number that I like to use in here is 2 because I like him to take lots of smaller steps when he is moving around. And then I'm going to do the same thing but for the right arrow. So at the moment I have got 2 there. Now positive 2 is going to take it to the right, so I need to make that a negative 2. Negative 2 will take it to the left. So if I do a 2-finger click, double click on the top block and press duplicate, I can easily change this. So I'm going to make this right arrow and change X by 2. Okay, so left will be negative 2, right is positive 2. Now I'm going to do the same thing for up and down, But the thing I need to change is this block inside here because it's not on the x-axis anymore, it's on the y-axis. So I'm going to do a 2-finger click, duplicate underneath, okay? I'm going to press the up arrow and I'm going to add in change y by 2, okay? So having a positive 2 will make it go up, and then to make it go down, I'm going to change y by negative 2, okay? There's one thing that I need around all of these blocks, and that means that any time I press these arrows, it will move in that direction, and that is a forever block. So when I put that around them, it will always be moving. So let's test it out. Okay, so it is going in the right direction when I'm moving. Now, obviously at the moment it is walking through the walls and I don't want it to be doing that. So I'm going to put in code that stops it from walking through the walls if it's touching the maze. So I'm going to stop my code and I'm going to use an if block inside these if blocks. So let's grab that. I'm going to put it here just so you can see what I am building. Now, I'm going to get if touching and change from mouse pointer to maze. So the way that if touching maze works is it senses if it's touching any part of the blue bit, because anything inside, it's technically not the maze because it is transparent. So it allows it to walk through the gaps but not hit any of the blue part. Now, this if touching maze block is going to go underneath every single arrow. So under the left, right, up and down arrow. So I'm going to put that in here. Okay, so it's in that if block there. And I'm going to do the opposite of this block here. So what this means is that if I press the left arrow, it's going to change x by negative 2. So it's going to go to the left. But if I'm touching the maze, I'm going to change x by 2. Now, what that means is it's going to cancel each other out. So changing x by negative 2 and positive 2 at the same time, it's going to cancel each other out and it's going to stand still. Okay, so I'm just going to put my mouse on that. I'm just going to quickly duplicate that first. Put it down here. I'll stick that back in. And then I'm going to get the next one and put that underneath the right arrow. So if touching right arrow, change x by 2. But if I'm touching the maze, I'm going to change x by negative 2. So you can see I'm doing the opposite. Now, a common mistake that a lot of people make too is they accidentally put their if blocks in the wrong spot, because as you can see, it starts to get a little bit of confusing now. So make sure you have your if touching maze in your if then block. Sometimes people accidentally put it inside each other like that, and you can see that should not be under your if touching maze. Okay, so you can just pull that one out. Okay, I'm going to grab my if touching maze block and do my up and down arrows. I could just duplicate it, but I'm doing it again just because it'll be y instead of x. So I'm going to do the opposite. So if I press the up arrow, change y by 2, but if I'm touching the maze, I'm going to do the opposite, which is change y by negative 2. Going to duplicate that block. Put this one back in here under my change y, and then this will come underneath. And to do the opposite again, I'm going to change y by 2. Okay, so like I said, the way this works is if I press my left arrow, it's going to change x by negative 2, so it will head to the left. But if I'm touching the maze, it's going to cancel that out. Okay, so let's test this out. Good, I'm still holding down the arrow, it's not going through. So I can see that that is working great. Now, one of the great things about the cat costume, or the cat sprite, I should say, is that it has different costumes. So I'm going to add in a costume change so it looks like it's running as it's moving throughout the maze. So if I head into looks, you'll see there is a next costume block, and I'm going to stick that in underneath every change x by or change y by block. I don't need to put it in for if it's touching the maze, only for the left, right, up and down arrows. Let's check this out. Now you can see his little legs running as he's moving around the sprite, moving around the maze. Okay. Now, if you're finding your sprite isn't moving too well, it's just because as he's having those costume changes, he could be getting caught on the little corners. So I know that if he's too close to the edge, he drags along a little bit more, like you can see that. So this is why the size of our cat is important. If you make him too big, for example, you'll see that he can't actually go anywhere because he's too large to fit around the corners. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're building. The last thing we're going to do for this part of our tutorial is add a pen. So if you head over down the bottom here where you can add more blocks, there is a pen that we can add. So if you click that, it brings up some options. So what we're going to do is add a pen trail to our character if you're interested in having it leave a little bit of a mark. So the first thing I'm going to do is head up to the top. I'm going to grab a pen down tool and I'm going to pick my pen color. So something different to the blue so it looks different. I might go for a nice little bright red. And then I'm going to use an erasal block. Now I'm going to put that at the bottom because when I finish running through my code and I stop and I start my code again and press the green flag again, obviously the pen is still down. So as it goes back to the start, it leaves that trail. So I have the erase all button there so that once it goes back to the start, all of my pen trail will be cleared. So let's test this out. Okay, so you can see I'm leaving a little bit of a mark where he's going. Okay, if I stop and I go back to the start, my trail is clear. Now, if I didn't have that erase all block there, you'll see what it looks like as he goes back to the start. Okay, you can see that leaves that mark there. So that's why erase all will come at the bottom there before we run our code. So that's it for part 1 of this tutorial. Check out part 2 for how we're going to add some questions and some broadcasting.